It's a brand new year, everybody. I know I'm a little bit late to getting my first upload of 2022 underway, but thank you so much for being patient with me. Got a lot of cool video projects underway. Some of it is going to be a bit different. So yeah, thank you for being patient. I really appreciate it. As you can tell, we're going to be pulling some franchises out of the graveyard this year, and it should be a fun time all around. But you know what else is kind of fun? Learning how to cook. And you can do that with today's sponsor, HelloFresh. New year, same old me. Love these guys. Look at this. This is your kitchen. This is your kitchen with HelloFresh. Wow. Listen, alright, food can be delicious, and that is never truer than when you look at how to make said food yourself. And HelloFresh is the perfect way to get that done. Get the annoying meal planning time out of the way. Go and pick a few tasty looking meals from the HelloFresh website, and then you just wait for a box of goodies to come to your door. And you're set, dude! Inside the box, you'll find everything you need, fresh ingredients, and a handy-dandy recipe card to assist you along the way. And then, before you know it, you'll have great-tasting food for your face hole. One of the things about HelloFresh that I haven't discussed before is the sustainability. One of the problems I have is I'll go shopping to get a whole bunch of groceries, and then eventually, a lot of it will just sit on the shelf for far too long to just be thrown away, and no one likes wasting food. It's a pain. But with HelloFresh, all of the portions are pre-done, you don't gotta worry about it, less food wasted. That's fantastic. Big fan, because no one likes just filling the trash can with a bunch of stuff and then you forget to take the trash that day and then you have bugs flying around it. It's no fun at all. HelloFresh will not give you bugs. Perhaps one of your New Year's resolutions was to take up a new hobby. Maybe it was to eat better. I know what it's like setting up some resolutions that inevitably fail, but this year, maybe do things a bit differently and have some more control of your food choices with HelloFresh. And also compete with me for who has the biggest recipe card collection. I want to meet somebody with more because that would be really cool, honestly. As always, thank you so much to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video, and if you want to get up to 16 free meals plus 3 free gifts, because of course you do, go to HelloFresh.com and use the code AntDude16 at checkout. Alright, time for video games now. The gaming world is no stranger to platformer mascots that faded away into obscurity, only for emulation and crusty videos like this one to be the things that are keeping those memories alive. Sometimes revivals do take place, and when they do, and when they're done really well, it is super cool, dude. Nothing like giving second chances, you know? So, yeah. Why does Rayman get so much disrespect? Ubisoft, buddy, pal, friend. What are you doing? I won't even begin to go through all of the ridiculous things this company has done over the years. This is not the place for that. It's just baffled me for the longest time that Ubisoft, one of the biggest video game publishers out there, just never really figured out how to best capitalize on one of their earliest mascots in a meaningful way. Outside of like, I don't know, popping up in Brawlhalla, cool, becoming a trophy in Smash Wii U for some reason, never figured that one out. Or, more obviously, sacrificing him to our rabid overlords. Yeah, good. It is about time this franchise had some respect put back on its name. Ubisoft can go around and continue to pretend like this franchise, one of their earliest star players, doesn't exist as we get our millionth Just Dance game. But today I'm going to try to change that narrative. I have been a fan of this dude ever since the beginning, and while it's very easy to see his name trend on Twitter whenever a new game doesn't get announced, happens far too often, I'm not a fan of that, I thought it would be fun to take a look back and see how we got to where we are today. Rayman's really good, Ubisoft. Please start caring about him. I'm calling this the rise and fall of Rayman, but realistically this is more so about multiple rises and falls, because the company never really knew what to do with him. He's a poor, abused boy. First things first, it's important to understand that this franchise is sort of split into two different camps. We got the main series with the original trilogy and the UbiArt Engine duology, all stemming from the creative mind of one Michel Ancel, aka the creative director behind Peter Jackson's King Kong, the official game of the movie. That's real, that's a real thing. And then the rest of the series, where Ubisoft consistently thought, yeah, you know, why not? Let's take the Rayman 1 engine and make an educational game out of it. Let's make Rayman Golf for old Java-based mobile phones, you know, Rayman's favorite sport, I guess? Let's make a Game Boy Advance version of Rayman 3 that plays like Rayman 1, uses the plot and level tropes from Rayman 2, and overall has like next to nothing to do with the actual Rayman 3. And then package it with Winnie the Pooh's Rumbly Tumbly Adventure. Dude, there's a Rayman cartoon. Like, what? Following the success of Rayman 2, there was an attempt to take the character and make an animated series out of him. There's really not much to it. Basically, Rayman is a circus performer on the run with his weird and incredibly disturbing looking friends. I still have nightmares about Lack Mac to this day. And shenanigans ensue while being chased by the law. That's it. Also, the guy who runs the circus is named after a pasta.
I am the great rigatoni.
Oh no, it's the evil fettuccine Alfredo. None of this, like absolutely none of this is being pulled from any of the video game lore. That pasta guy, not in the games. He's just here. This entire cartoon is just random for the sake of being random. Rayman is voiced by Billy West, of all people.
My friend here can fix your car.
Oh my god, your car! It's just Fry from Futurama with a Boston accent. I hate it. I've only ever gotten to see 4 episodes of this show because, well, only 4 actually got released. This was supposed to be a full 26 episode deal, but it was canceled before episode 5 was completed. Didn't stop them from giving this uncompleted cartoon a retail release at the time. Do you see what I mean about this franchise being weird? I mean, ultimately, it should really surprise nobody that Ubisoft isn't really the best at decision making, but it's still just so confusing. Whenever the time came for Rayman to go on a brand new adventure, he knocked it out of the park every single time. It's probably easy as an outsider to see a platformer trilogy with 1 side-scroller and 2 3D ones and think, oh yeah, you know, just like Gex. But I can assure you, Rayman is way better than Gex. Maybe. If you want platformers that feature playable characters that feel really satisfying to control, stories filled with an incredibly diverse set of charming side characters, in these large, dreamy landscapes that occasionally dive deeper into nightmares more than anything, typically accompanied by magical soundtracks, this is the series for you. The original Rayman has definitely aged pretty poorly with less than ideal difficulty spikes, but to be fair, listen to the company jingle. That's good. And then you beat a level and Rayman goes, yeah! Oh, that's amazing. Now Rayman 2, The Great Escape in particular, this is one of the best 3D platformers of all time. Some of the most richly detailed worlds this genre has to offer, super fluid controls for any of the mechanics the game throws at you, a really good amount of Alice in Wonderland-like surrealism sprinkled here and there, and you get mountable rockets with legs that sound like horses. Right on, man, giddy up. Not to mention the green cartridge too, man. Ooh. Oh, that's nice. To think that friggin' Tonic Trouble was basically the prototype for this game as well? You want to talk about a massive jump in quality, man? Well, oh boy, there is certainly reason why we'll never see Ed again, I can tell you that much. Who even cares about him? Probably the first time you've heard of Tonic Trouble before. I did a video on it years ago. Doesn't even matter. Not a good game. The story is also about slavery, which is absolutely bonkers. Admiral Razorbeard is going on a tirade, enslaving all of the inhabitants and the yellow lums in the land. And there's this one scene where you see Razorbeard eat one of the lums, and you watch the 1,000 yellow lum count drop to 999. That is crazy. That scarred me when I was a kid. And then they made Razorbeard a circus employee in the cartoon. Why is this company like this? But even then, man, the weirdness continues. Rayman 2 released primarily on 4 different consoles: Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, Dreamcast, and PlayStation 2. And each of these versions are different. The 64 and Dreamcast versions are largely similar outside of obvious graphical differences, but the Dreamcast version features a different Isle of Doors level select screen, as well as featuring some exclusive minigames. As a result, the Dreamcast version ends up being the superior of all of them, and then we have the PS1 version. Oh man, this one not only looks worse, but also has heavily truncated level designs and 200 less yellow lums. Not really sure why this version exists, except for probably contractual obligations, but not the best way to play this game. Although, deep within this version, as an unlockable, is a playable prototype of Rayman 2. That's really cool. This was initially when it was going to be a more proper sequel to the first game. There's not much to this bit, honestly, but there are a couple of new gimmicks that weren't in the original game, and that's pretty cool. The fact that this is here at all, and only in this version, makes the PS1 Rayman 2 infinitely more interesting. While the PS2 version, which released later, Revolution, ooh, fancy name, features updated graphics as well as a brand new free roaming hub world completely replacing the Isle of Doors that we got before. And both the PS1 and 2 versions have voice acting, which the N64 and Dreamcast lack, but they both have totally different voice casts.
I feel weak and my powers have disappeared. I feel weak and my powers have disappeared.
It's so weird, man. The N64 version was ported to the DS, the Dreamcast version was ported to the 3DS, and neither of which have screenshots on the back of the boxes that represent how crusty the games actually look. Got a fantastic game out of this one, but man, Ubisoft, what was all that? Rayman 1, the original, had slightly similar shenanigans with the PlayStation, Jaguar, Saturn, and PC versions, but honestly nowadays I would say you don't even need to bother. Rayman Redemption, it's right there. Alright, so check this out. Rayman Redemption is a fan-made remake of that original adventure, but way better, dude! You got better movement options with all of your abilities unlocked right from the get-go, modified level designs on top of a brand new world, Playtopia, including a level based off of Rayman Brain Games, which is absolutely hilarious, and a ton of quality of life improvements, like an unlockable arrow to point you towards collectibles, something the original game desperately needed, considering you needed all of those collectibles just to get to the final boss, something that Redemption also thankfully changed. Now the collectibles are satisfying for completion's sake, and that is way better. It's not every day a fan creation is good enough to completely dethrone the title it's paying homage to, but this absolutely does that. You know that one Metroid fan game, AM2R, a fan game that's so good it's usually in the conversation for some of the best games in the franchise? Well, Rayman Redemption does the same thing, but for that franchise, and that's really cool. Yeah! Then when it comes to Rayman 3, Hoodlum Havoc, that one thankfully only has one major release with an HD re-release later on, nothing else weird there. Aside from the Winnie the Pooh combo pack I brought up earlier, oh man, what was that about? I don't understand. And then there's the fact that they tried to market this game in magazines by implying Rayman is really well endowed. Oh my god. And then there's a commercial where he like pees his name in the snow. I can't imagine why this game didn't sell better. This one sort of follows The Great Escape in terms of aesthetics, but the creepiness level has been dramatically reduced. Instead, what we have is a plot about Glowbox eating an evil lum known as a hoodlum, genius name by the way, and you go on a quest to get it out of his system. And along the way, you bring him to doctors who play air guitar on him. While the game is definitely still fun to play, you know, the platforming is solid, the combat's really engaging, it's all about the point combo system this time around. Every new room brings in a brand new encounter that kind of acts like a mini puzzle. You could just go on in, fists ablazing, and then knock everything out as you see fit, but sometimes you may want to take a minute to step back and gauge your surroundings to best optimize your score. You do get graded with stars at the end of every segment, but I don't really understand how that point system works out. I feel like sometimes I do everything and then I get like 2 stars. I don't really get it, but it's still fun. You also get a whole new slew of battle fatigue abilities to change up your moveset. From a grappling hook to tornado punches, there's a whole lot of them, and they're always a really nice change of pace when you get them. Overall, Rayman 3, it's fine. I appreciate them doing something different rather than attempting to simply one-up The Great Escape. That probably wasn't gonna happen anyway, but it still lacks a lot of the polish the previous games handled so well. Rayman's creator, Michel Ancel, didn't really have anything to do with this one, and it really shows. And after that original trilogy, that was it for a while. Well, kinda. As much as I want to say that was kind of it, and then we just waited a few years for Origins, that didn't necessarily happen. Ubisoft had no issue dragging his name through the mud as much as they possibly could through the very annoying and loud, rabid-filled mud. The one big spinoff through all of this was Rayman Arena, a sort of multiplayer minigame collection that is actually pretty fun. It's really nonsensical in the grand scheme of things, considering you're doing things like races against some of the most threatening enemies from Rayman 2. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and there's not much of a story to tie things together, but gameplay-wise, it ain't bad. The different console releases also offer pretty different experiences. It's bizarre, like Rayman Arena showed up on PS1 as Rayman Rush, where it's more or less the same idea, except it's just racing portions, and it puts this weird, ugly abomination on the cover art. Don't like that thing one bit. Also, the game was called Rayman M in Europe. Like, alright, sure, consistency be damned. But even when Arena jumped from one console to another, there was like a different menu system and whatnot. It's so weird. I'm numb at this point. Rayman Brain Games is a much funnier time though. They really took Rayman 1, one of the hardest 2D platformers of all time, and figured, you know what, that engine, it would be great to teach children how to pronounce words like death. Oh man, this company. I actually already went into more detail about this game with everybody's favorite Rayman cosplayer Nitro Red a few years ago, so be sure to check that out, as well as the video on his channel where we talk about Rayman Arena. Do that after you're done with this one. You'll probably enjoy it, I would assume so. And also throughout all of this, Rayman actually had a pretty fulfilling life in the Game Boy family too. Rayman 1 and 2 on the Game Boy Color. You know what? They're not bad. Nobody played them, but they're okay. They're based on the backbones of their console counterparts, with clear references in terms of the level theming and the collectibles. And while they're really nothing mind-blowing, in the grand scheme of 2D platformers exclusive to the Game Boy Color, of which is a very, very minuscule list, these are fine. I already mentioned Rayman 3 GBA before, this weird, ugly abomination that just so desperately wants to be Rayman 1 and also Rayman 2, but not Rayman 3. And when it comes to the game itself, man, it's not very good. Level design wise, it's just all over the place. There was not really a whole lot of consistency with this one. Mechanically, it plays fine, but when the level designs are not there to compensate, you don't have a good adventure on your hands. Interestingly enough though, there is actually a proper sequel to 3 on the Game Boy Advance called Hoodlum's Revenge. This goes for an isometric view instead of a side-scrolling one. Basically the same thing Spyro and Banjo also did on the console. And like Rayman 1 and 2 on the Game Boy Color, this one ain't that bad either. It's very forgettable, but it exists. I understand that when it comes to this piece of hardware, it's really difficult to get a 3D platformer to work as intended, but man, I really can't get behind this camera angle. I tried. For all of those games, Banjo was the only one to really get it right in my opinion. This plays very similar to the Spyro games, and I didn't like those either, but I mean, I guess it works. It may not just be for me. Nah, it just doesn't work. I'm gonna say that instead. It certainly has a lot more in line with the console Rayman 3 than the handheld Rayman 3. So why'd you guys name Rayman 3 when this is more Rayman 3 than the other Rayman 3? You see how complicated you made this, Ubisoft? But realistically, the most interesting part about Rayman 3 on the GBA was it was used as the base for the GBA version of Rayman Raving Rabbids. Okay, so yes, around this time in Rayman's life is when the character was being used as a literal doormat for the oncoming Rabid pandemic. If you're a fan of those minigame collections, more power to you. We did, years later, at least get a couple of good Rabbids games out of this weird monstrosity with Rabbids Go Home and Mario Plus Rabbids, but man, I just can't get over the fact that Rayman was simply thrown in here for name recognition while simultaneously having his name ruined in the process. Some of you may recall the cancelled early version of Rayman 4, where we were gonna have a proper platformer with the Rabbids as enemies, and it sounded so much cooler. Well, here you go, I guess. The console version may have been totally switched around to a minigame collection, but here on the GBA, that premise is still here. I mean, don't misunderstand me, this is still not a good game, but it's interesting that this exists. The core vision of what Rayman Raving Rabbids was going to be, some of that could be found here. Probably not as intended to be as broken of a mess as what we actually got, but the story's interesting at least. In that canceled trailer, there are these moments where Rayman will have different costumes on, and that part is in this version, and all they do is lock really basic abilities behind them, and you have to toggle to the one transformation every single time, and the abilities don't make sense, because yeah, of course, the chewed gum spitting ability that you have to spit into the tree that are hollowed out so you can make them bouncy. Oh, only the punk version of Rayman could do that. You know, that's the main staple of the punk lifestyle, right? This even carries over to the DS version of Rayman Raving Rabbids as well. Same story, man. That canceled premise of the evil Rabbids and your Rayman in a platformer, This game does it too, except now it's a 2D platformer built off of the Rayman 2 engine? What is happening? It plays exactly like Rayman 2. Even restricted to 2 dimensions, it's still pretty fun because Rayman was fun to control in that original game. There are some annoying touchscreen minigames shoehorned in here because, I mean, it's the Rabbids, of course we do. But the core game, I will be damned, is actually solid, and if I want to call any of these Rayman games a hidden gem, it's actually this one. The same costume mechanic is here as well, and same thing, abilities are locked behind them, and I have no idea why, but they are utilized a lot better than in that GBA version, so as crazy as it is to see Grandma Rayman, who's the only one that could summon boulders, yeah, I'll take it, I guess. It's better than literally nothing. My grandma's better than yours. I don't make the rules. But the real reason you play Rayman Raving Rabbids on the DS. Okay, so you may remember that in the console game there was this rhythm game section where the songs were Rabbid covers of real music, and it was kinda cute for the time. Well, if you were wondering if that was replicated in the DS version, you see, the Rabbids weren't all bad. E3 2010, the same time Nintendo had that really crazy conference where they brought a bunch of franchises back like Kirby and Donkey Kong and GoldenEye. Well, hey, Ubisoft managed to pull off one of the greatest reveals they've ever done that same week. Rayman is back, baby. We may have killed him by a bunch of Rabbids, you know, sorry about that, but hey, we're rebooting this beloved franchise. We're giving it this amazing art style with our fancy new UbiArt engine, and we're bringing back the head honcho, Mr. Ansel, Rayman Origins. Oh my god, this game is so good. Origins goes back to Rayman 1 in terms of the general aesthetics, and modernizes the gameplay to a beautiful degree. This is one of the most free-flowing 2D platformers ever made. I don't know if there's a platformer out there with more fluid play control than this one. You can essentially just run the entire time, and the level design is so immaculately perfected, it is more fun to keep a run and learn how to time your jumps and die while doing so you can really memorize what you're running through, than it is to take a moment and assess your surroundings. This ain't the time to be standing around. You got places to go and seductive fairies to save. Hell yeah, dude, love it. Now, granted, there may be a bit of a bias here. This, Donkey Kong Country Returns, and Kirby's Epic Yarn all released basically back to back, and all of these games are fantastic, so I was in platformer heaven at the time. But even still, Origins is top tier. Just not the 3DS version. I mean, Jesus, it's like you're watching a 1080p YouTube video in 240p. I'm gonna vomit. Play it on literally anything else. The Vita is a fantastic platform for this game. The 3DS version, oh my god, this is gross. And the sequel, Legends, is no slouch either. The most obvious difference is, while Origins went for a more flat color style with its art direction, Legends goes for a smoother, more painted approach. Both look fantastic. I do kind of prefer Origins, but to say either of these games look bad would be a really dumb thing to say. Aside from that though, in essence, it is kind of just more of the same with more fleshed out levels, as well as this brand new mechanic where Murphy will come in to assist you on your travels. Oh man, okay, so see, this is where things get weird again. So initially, Legends was gonna be a Wii U exclusive, and Murphy would be playable with the gamepad's touchscreen, while the other real-life players, or if playing solo, a computer, will run through, or I should say walk through, the level that you're helping clear out. When Ubisoft delayed the game to work on porting it to other consoles because Nintendo fans during the Wii U era didn't deserve nice things, they had to, of course, change how this entire mechanic worked. The Wii U version still works as intended, but now in the other versions, Murphy just automatically moves to where he's needed and you press a button to take advantage of his abilities. That's it, and then you go about your day. As a result, many do say the Wii U version is the superior of them all, but I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't agree. I was never one to enjoy platformers with co-op, so the fact that the Wii U version takes control away from the player as a core mechanic for most of the levels, yeah, I don't like that. This is where the newest version on the Switch, the definitive version, shines in my opinion. This one maintains the button-based Murphy controls while also including the Murphy's Touch set of levels in the main menu, where you get to use the touchscreen to control Murphy as Ubisoft God intended. It even features new Kung Fu tournament features. Whoa, dude, let's go! I guess. Any minor nitpicks aside, both Rayman Origins and Legends are amazing platformers and modernize this character and his world perfectly. When it comes to modern 2D platformers, quite frankly, you can't really get that much better than these. I mean, Tropical Freeze exists, but you get what I'm saying. Legends even includes a huge chunk of levels from Origins, though I do think Origins is still the stronger game in general. I don't know, in my opinion, something about Legends coming off as a simple level pack with this sort of painting structure for the main menu, it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Origins came off as a more proper adventure, and I think the game is a little bit better as a result. But I'm really nitpicking here, man. That doesn't really matter. Legends also has these music, rhythm-based pseudo-autorunner levels, which are really cool. But once though, Origins had a similar concept with these treasure chasing segments, and those are really fun, but man, maybe it's just me here. When you make a level strictly tied to the beat of the music, it's not too hard to figure out, and then you lose replay value as a result. The chasing segments were a lot cooler, because you could always mess up at any given moment. Man, where will the nitpicking end? But whatever, at the end of the day, this is really just a spark of debate in the comments. It doesn't matter. Both games are amazing, and with their successes, surely the future of this franchise is very bright, and our heroes are gonna ride off really well into the sunset. No. In the year 2022, the gap in time between Rayman Legends' original release and today is greater than that of Rayman 3's original release and Rayman Origins. This is what pain feels like. Oh, but they've certainly been trying, alright. Rayman does still have technically a prominent position, but on mobile devices. To be fair, considering a huge level of enjoyment from Origins and Legends comes from its sort of speedrun, auto-run styled nature, creating these single-button mobile games that are genuine auto-runners, it actually makes all the sense in the world. It's like one of the smartest things Ubisoft's ever done. Rayman Jungle Run and Rayman Fiesta Run are fantastic games. Doesn't matter that they're on mobile, they're actually really fun. As for the sequels, Rayman Adventures and Rayman Mini, it's just, why is mobile the primary home for Rayman now? Rayman Adventures is like a weird part 2 to Fiesta Run. It looks very much the same, has a lot of the same ideas and mechanics, but Rayman Mini? This one is actually really new. It released in 2019, exclusive to the Apple Arcade service, and it's a proper sequel to the franchise. We have levels based around you being tiny. This is not something these games have done before, and this is so cool. Why are you guys not doing anything on console? This is what I meant about Rayman having multiple rises and falls, man. Twice now, Rayman was put in the limelight and made out to be a big deal, and we got fantastic platformers out of it, and then before you know it, Ubisoft pulls the rug from under his feet, and the fans are left clueless. By all accounts, Rayman has always technically been here. He never really went away, but has he really been here though? The original Rayman, the fan remake Redemption, The Great Escape, Hoodlum Havoc, Origins, and Legends, you would be hard-pressed to find platformers with as consistent of a high quality and fantastic style as these. But I feel like all of the effort put into those main games is almost pointless in the grand scheme of things if the people responsible for the franchise consistently do things that people never ask for. Why is Rayman Golf a thing? But considering Beyond Good and Evil 2's insane development cycle, that game will probably never release, and the fact that Just Dance kept releasing on the Wii after dropping the Wii U and also simultaneously released on the Switch, I have learned to not question Ubisoft anymore. This is a weird company that is holding this franchise hostage. As a company, Ubisoft clearly has a lot of issues they need to resolve. I am not going to pretend as if Rayman's negligence is the biggest thing they have to deal with. But that being said, being a fan of this franchise, I still can't help but be pretty annoyed. I know I tried to do the same thing for Ape Escape a while ago and we all saw how that went. Maybe Rayman will have a slightly different future. It shouldn't be too difficult, you know, just do a full-on remake of Rayman 2. You bring back the Rayman taking a piss ad campaign and we're golden. You get it? It's a pee joke.